Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Healthy, Happy Living in the Spotlight with me, your host, Stephanie. And today we are going to talk to Matt Davis of Reform Chiropractic. But again, just to give you an introduction and remind you a little bit of why we do this and why I have chosen to interview so many people that are in the DFW area, because I've been networking a lot in the last 2 years, and I've met various people that I really believe are doing some really fantastic work in the health and wellness industry. And I just felt like it was really selfish of me to keep all of this to myself. So I wanted to be able to have a platform where I could interview everyone and share what they do. And if it benefits you in any way, or if you know someone that it benefits, then fantastic. Then we've spread the word about these wonderful people. So today I get to interview, I'm so happy to interview Matt Davis of Reform Chiropractic. And Matt and I, gosh, we met a while back, and I've actually been to Matt's office and seen his new office in McKinney, Texas, and it's beautiful. And I'm sure that we'll get into this a little bit, but with all of the madness that has gone on, that things have shifted in your business a bit. But what you do and the specialty of what you do is so important. So thank you so much for coming on today with me and sharing your story and sharing why you do this with me so that others can hear. So Matt, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know just a little bit about what you do.
Well, thanks so much for having me. Dr. Matt Davis here at Reform Chiropractic. We're in McKinney, Texas, and we are a pediatric and family chiropractic office, and we focus on helping the central nervous system recover and get back to where it needs to be so the body can do the healing it needs to do itself. So there you go. There's a simple version about what we do.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Exactly. Perfect. Wonderful. Well, just to hop to some other, questions that kind of help us get to know you a little bit better. So where did you grow up?
Well, so many people are not from Texas, and we are one of those. We moved here to go to school and then open a practice. About halfway through school, we realized we love Texas and we're going to stay here. So that was great for us. We lived in McKinney the entire time, but I grew up just outside of Yosemite National Park in California. So if you're familiar with that area at all, in the Central Valley, so that's where I grew up. So I got to spend a lot of time down there. And then as a little kid, we spent a lot of time in Southern California. So I've got the beach and the mountains in my blood. So I got a little bit of a surfer, snowboarder combo going on at the heart and soul of who I am. So
is that where the picture behind you is from?
No, that would be, I think that's in Pacific Northwest, but that definitely, we just don't get that kind of fog in Yosemite. That's up there. So, but no, we got the Half Dome and El Capitan. So if you've seen the Free Solo movie, then you'll know right where I grew up. We would go up there on the weekends all the time. So
Wow.
So it was incredible season of life to be so near. So
a lot of outdoors. So you stayed in California until you moved here for school?
No, we actually did a little jaunt. We stayed in California until 2009, when the whole market and the economy collapsed. We had our third child on the way, and we're like, hey, we maybe need to do something different. I was a consultant at the time. And so we moved our whole family to Kansas to be near family because we wanted, with young family, wanted to have some extra help. So her folks said, hey, would you guys ever consider moving out to a small town of about 50,000 in the middle of Kansas? And we're like, sure. So
sure, why not? Why not?
There we go. So we were there for 5 years, and then God opened the door for us to come down to Texas, McKinney. And so we've been here ever since. So,
it's interesting. We moved from California. We were in Sherman Oaks in the valley down by LA.
Yep.
Both of our children down there. And in 2008, about this time, actually, it was Memorial Day, June-ish, when we moved the entire family to Texas to be near family, because I was like, I didn't know how we were going to be able to afford a house.
Oh, you weren't.
At all.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So being able to come here and have so much more prosperity has been very much a blessing. So I'm right there with you. Now, what city in Kansas?
We were in Salina, Kansas. So a lot of people in Texas actually are familiar with it because if you're heading to Colorado, you go up to Salina and you make a left. So
okay.
there you go.
Well, and Kansas is, I mean, there's a lot of beauty there too, I think. It just depends on where you're looking, I think.
It's just different. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, people say that about Texas too, right? They're like,
Sure.
you got to look a
Sure.
little harder here to find it. So.
Yeah, if you've had that upbringing where you have with the views that you've had, it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay, so you guys are settled here in the North Dallas area.
We love it. Yep.
That's awesome. That's awesome. There's so many families that you can support and that you can help in this area for sure. So what would you consider to be one of your superpowers?
Wow. I think the superpower for me is, I mean, it's going to seem kind of funny, but is just an ability to connect with kids. That's something that I've always had, always love. I think that's something you either have or you don't.
Right.
I mean, even as a parent, to extend beyond my own kids. So I'd say that's one of my superpowers. And then my love for the water would be my other superpower. I love being in the water. So that's something that's good for me.
I did see a picture recently of you slalom.
Yeah, wow, check you out. You actually know the terms. There it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did a little skiing on Lake Louisville myself when I was growing up.
Okay.
I had a girlfriend of mine that was one of my dance friends, and her parents had a boat, and they would take me out, and we would go to Lake Louisville, and they taught me how to ski and how to slalom. Both. So I have not skied. I got up on skis recently, actually, in the last couple of years. There was when we were up with my husband in Hot Springs Village on the lake, and I actually got up and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like riding a bike. So that's wonderful. Well, it's such a good workout, skiing.
You don't. The older you get, and then you go back out there after a while, you forget how many muscles it takes to pull yourself up and hold yourself.
Oh yeah,
so it's phenomenal. Sure, it's like dance. When you haven't danced for a while and you get back out there and dance, you're like, why does every bone in my body and every muscle hurt? And
it's funny because sometimes that can apply to walking. I mean, if you go on a long walk with someone, sometimes you're going to get sore if you don't do that once in a while, especially if it's brisk. Wonderful. Well, that's great. Well, what is one thing that you feel like you have found that you really love about this special time of my goodness, my phone keeps blowing up. I'm so sorry. Can you hear that?
Yeah, no worries.
Something that you found that you love about this quarantine time, that's this special time in our lives.
Well, we love the fact that it cleared the calendar. I mean, I think for any family, especially since families are really important for us, will become more and more, and we want to be advocates for the family for as long as God lets me practice.
Yeah.
Clearing that calendar out was probably one of the best things ever. We're very guarded on our calendar, anyways. We limit what the kids do. We're not doing, in our opinion, too much. I feel like sometimes as families, we get these huge aspirations for what our kids should be able to do, and they're in clubs and too many different sports and running all over the place. So for us, having anything like being able to be home, being out, I mean, for us, even having some midweek movie nights and doing some things like that was just a fun treat. So we are glad that season is hopefully over and that we officially got out of the whole weird school thing. I think that was the hardest part. I mean, so
we'll see what happens in the fall, right?
Yeah, I honestly, I mean, I'm going to take a different thing. So if try not to be controversial, we definitely have a different perspective on how that should be taken. So we can go there if you want to, but we might
want to sidebar on that.
Yeah, we can definitely sidebar on that. So
yeah, I would love to hear your opinion about it. There's so much information floating around.
And a lot of it's wrong. So we'll just leave it at that. There you
go. Sure. Well, cool. I want to focus on you though. So what would you say is one of your just all-time favorite accomplishments in your lifetime so far?
Well, I mean, this might sound cheesy, but I mean, meeting my wife was probably one of the best accomplishments ever because that changed everything for me. So because of that, then I have 3 amazing children that are, the motivators for what we do, and learning for me as a Christian, building in and discipling my kids, helping them come to know and love the Lord is probably one of the greatest honors. That's not something I can control, but presenting that to them. And then I think demonstrating for my kids not to be afraid. I mean, I'm a late to chiropractic guy. So, I mean, we changed our whole world in my 40s. So, I mean, for us, that's probably one of my biggest accomplishments is that we sold everything, moved to Texas, and decided to change our whole life. So I think it's twofold for me, because I demonstrated to my kids, don't be afraid. You're not locked in. You never have to do something you don't want to do. Now, we love what we did before, but we just felt like God really opened the door to do something even bigger. So when I wanted that to be modeled for my kids, that we're never going to be afraid of the scary big things that come in our way.
Yeah, because those scary big things are there for a reason.
You nailed it. Yeah, you guys are walking through that too.
Yes, absolutely. So what did you do before? I'm curious.
Well, my early career right out of school, I was a youth pastor. So I started working in youth ministry, did that for about 11 years. And then I kind of dovetailed right into coaching and consulting, and built my own consulting and coaching company, and did that for another 10, 11 years, both in California and Kansas. And I loved it, but I was saying the same thing over and over again to people who didn't really want to listen, and coming back around doing the same stuff again and just charging more for the same advice. And I kind of got tired of it. Now, I mean, some people would say, well, that's an easy job, but we want to make an impact. We want to see people's lives change from the inside out. So that was the biggest motivator for us to do something different and to kind of move in a new direction. So
that's amazing. And your wife is right there with you. Has she done the same?
Well, yeah, she's still with me. She's not in the practice. We have someone that works with us here. She helped me get going. But for us, honestly, we wanted to make sure that our family was number one. So that is her role. That's what she does. She runs that side of of our corporation. She runs that part of that wing full time for us. And she did help me out initially, and she comes in.
I love that way.
It's the only way for us. And she just does that so well. And
yeah, I love that that image of it, and that the way that you described it, that part of your corporation. Because that's what it is. It really is, and I love that. Okay.
Yeah, she's got a staff of 3. That don't always listen all that well. They have high demands, and constantly having to go to HR with stuff. Right. So yeah. If you ever want to have a fun illustration, you can talk to moms about how it compares to being an HR administrator. So
I love that. I love that. That's fantastic. Well, wonderful. Well, why is it the why behind why you strive to be the best at your specific love for your genre of chiropractic that you've chosen? Why is it that you strive to be the best?
Well, I think for all of us, I use the word best lightly, because here's the thing. Everybody wants to be the best. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, but I think it's more important to connect. I want to make sure that I connect with people, and the knowledge that I have is relevant to where they are. Because sometimes when you're the best at something, then you're disconnected from people because you're so good at what you do, no one else can relate to you. So we're pediatric and family chiropractic, which essentially means we take care of everybody. The biggest shift for us is that we moved away from neck pain, back pain. I think the biggest thing that chiropractic did for itself that was a negative was just say, that's what we take care of. Because we honestly take care of the central nervous system. That's the brain, the spine, they work together. They're one unit. You don't have, it's neurospinal. It's not just your neck or your back. So I think that was what motivated me more than anything, is when we see kids and families walking through this early stage of life, and it's hard. There is so much physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress, more so even now than I think when we were kids, even more so than when our parents were growing up. Outside of the time when you had to literally go kill stuff to stay alive, I think there's just so much. So for us to be the best, that means I want to be able to identify and help families walk through those things that they're facing in early childhood. So that's torticollis, that's not sleeping, that's not peeing, that's not pooping, that's anxiety, depression, frustration, that's exhaustion for mom and dads, that's stressed out, parents, and that's ADHD, ADD, and we got so many illustrations that we didn't even have when we were kids, and some of them really are just overdiagnosed. So we got a world that is dependent on chemicals for solutions, and we have parents now that are, I don't know what most parents would do now without Facebook or Google, because now we've got so many people who believe they're experts, but they're not. And I've got people, diagnosing themselves and their kids with stuff that they don't have. And I say this respectfully. That's what wants me to be the best. I want to be able to sit down with people and say, like, here is the real cause of what you're walking through. So as a parent, when someone sits down with me with absolute certainty and says, hey, let's get to the bottom of what you're dealing with, that's a game changer. I want you to be the best at what you do, but I want you to understand and know where we're at. So I hope that answers your question there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to kind of side question you here on this one. Was there a specific something that happened that made you decide to go into education for chiropractic?
Well, yeah, I mean, a couple things. I mean, I had it change my life, and this is pretty typical. Back in the day, I'd say even as late as the 80s, anybody who was in chiropractic school was 30 or 40 years old because they'd had a life-changing experience through chiropractic, and they had a mentor that was a chiropractor who said, you need to do this, and they did. Now, most of the chiropractic kids, when I went to school, I was 20 to 23 years older than everybody there. So it didn't used to be that way. Now it's the first career option. People are coming out of undergrad and going right into, going to chiropractic school. The moment that really changed my direction, I think I see it now, was when my daughter was born. She was born with a infection in her lungs by no fault of her own. And we're those weird people, like Jim Gaffigan says, that believe in witchcraft, and we had our babies at home, God forbid, but no fault of my wife. There was no problem. My daughter just got some meconium in her lungs somehow during the last stages of pregnancy, and was having trouble breathing. And I saw this little beautiful girl born that I was there and got to catch her and hold her from the minute she was there. But she wasn't breathing. And the midwife pulled me aside and lovingly said, hey, I'm doing everything I can. We were doing pass by oxygen, everything they would have done in the hospital. She says, I think we need a transport. She says, is there anything else you want to do before we make that call? And I was like, well, I've got a friend who's a chiropractor, and I called him. It turns out he's out of town. And then he calls someone else and he's out of town. We literally were like 3 chiropractors deep at this point of people. And this guy showed up. He knew me from nobody other than the guy of a guy of a guy. And that was enough for him. He said, if you know Dr. Gary, who knows Dr. Matt, who knows this, he says, I'm here for you. So got to adjust my daughter, and I watched her go from blue to pink. I watched her whole life change in an instant with that upper cervical adjustment. So that I can see it to this day. I could probably cry if we kept talking about it long enough. So that began that movement for me of, walking into a hospital and they saying, we're going to be there for 10 days in the NICU. We were there for 2. It changed her world, changed her life. So that began that process for me. And then I'd say a man by the name, Dr. Gary Bertow, had been reaching into my life since 89. And every year, I'd say some way or indirectly, it's like, Matt, you need to be a chiropractor. And I was like, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to do this. And then every year I would accomplish something else that he would say, hey, now you've got business experience under your belt. Hey, now you've got theology under your belt. Now you've got this. You need to do it. And it just, everything changed. So he spun my world one day after we came out of his office and sat on the beach for a couple hours and watched my whole world change. And my wife looked in my eyes and says, something's changed. And I was like, yeah. So we spent a year praying about it with some friends. I had about 10 couples that have known us for 10 years or more. And all of them said yes, except for one. He said, you're crazy. You're 42. Why would you do this now? You have a great career. You're good at what you do. You always have been. He hung up, and then he called me back 10 minutes later and he said, Matt, if that's what God's put this in your path, you got to do it. You got to be obedient. So there you go. There's the story. So
that's the why, folks. That's it right there, because there are reasons that those of us, because I did the same thing. I've chosen to completely go in a different direction in my 40s as well, and go into more of a health and wellness space or well-being space. And there's that one story, man, that really gets you and just is, in my opinion, a signal, a sign that this is what you're going to do. I love that. That's wonderful. Okay. So you've already told us one success story. Clearly that wasn't necessarily from your work, but from the work that you have learned how to do. But are there success stories from your personal practice that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah. How many hours do you have? I mean, we'd love. So, no, I'd say, right away. We've had, that's what we specialize in. And so once that story starts getting out, you start seeing that happen over and over again. But because we focus on the nervous system and we measure that for people, and that's something that most people don't know, is that we use a great thing called the Insight Scan. We measure from the inside out. So we measure heart rate variability. We measure the tension and temperature of the nervous system. So I can show you where you're not working. I can show you where we use the term subluxated or fixated, or there's a stress on the nervous system. I can show you that to you. I can show that to your kids. We had a mom come in. Her son had really never thrived in school. Had just been told that he was quote unquote ADHD, ADD, was being prepared to have a 504, wanted an IEP. They were like all these things. And she says, is there any other way? They were starting to get the whole list of medications that everyone wanted her to take and be a part of. And, the doctor, no judgment on the pediatrician, but that's what they're trained to do, is like, here, take this. This is what we do. This is what we think will make a difference. Mm-hmm. So, so they started with us, and over the next 5 months, we watched every 12 visits shifts. At first, it was kind of all over the place, back and forth, and not sure where he's going to settle. And I'll never forget the moment when she walked in the door. Let me try and hold it together.
You don't have to. That's the beauty of this.
She was holding up an exam from 4th grade math with 100% on it. She says, he's never gotten this. He doesn't get these. This is not our son. Gage doesn't get this. He's the, I don't care, it doesn't matter, whatever. And I was like, wow, that was the success story. And we got to follow the course of that treatment plan for him, to watch his care plan. We don't call them treatment plans in our office. We call them the restorative care plans, because we're restoring the body's natural ability. You kind of get a term why we call it reform. We want to get you back to where you were and what you were designed to do, right? So he now, on January, our grand opening, he sat down in front of the video camera and said himself, in his own words, man, I can focus. I know what I'm doing, and I feel confident in my ability to do the work that's before me. Do I like being in school? No, but I know I can do it. So,
right. Oh, what a shift.
I got one more quick one. I had a 19-year-old that had been on, you'll love this one. He'd been on every kind of medication since he was 5. 19 when he came to us, and over that next 6 months of seeing me in 3 days a week, the kid was a machine, didn't miss his appointments. Every 12 visits we rescan and we'd see the changes. On the last scan we did with his mom, she'd come in every time, because they were still helping him out, paying for care, right? When you're 19, you're not, you think you're an adult, but you're not, you're kind of in that, hey, check me out, I'm so cool. I can do my own stuff, but mom and dad, hey, dad, can I borrow your card real quick? Yeah. She sat here with me across the table in this very room that we're at right now. And she said, he's able to articulate and sit still, and he looks us in the eye. He communicates like a 19-year-old young man should now. He's not like constantly, I say this very respectfully, but when he first came in, you would have thought he'd been on meth. And once again, most of the meds he was taking are very similar to that. So in many ways, he was calm, sitting still, and his mom had a tear in her eye, just saying, hey, this is amazing, and we're excited to see where he goes, because we're only going to restore him to his fullest function according to what he's able to do, and we want to get him back to a place where he's stable and strong and be a part of a wellness program for us for the rest of his life. And we're excited to see him go off to OU hopefully in the fall, and just go for it. I always joke with him, we'll see him when he runs first cent. So
yeah, that is amazing. Okay, so what is one? I know that I wrote the word failure, but I'm choosing to rewrite that to learning. So is there something that you have that just didn't exactly go right, but it really forced you to learn something and shift the way that you were practicing, or how you respond to someone?
I'm walking through it right now. It's taking cases don't fit what you're about. It's taking when I take a neck pain or back pain case, I'm capable, I'm trained, I do it, I love it. In a sense, I love them. It's not what we're about, So when I take one of those, I learn every time. It's like when you move away from what your core is. Like one of my mentors, Tony Ebel, talks about this. He says, when you move away from what you are really called to do, you feel angst. You don't feel good about it. When Gabriel walks in my doors and he's acting like a puppy when he walks in and is jumping all over the table, and we find a way to fit in an adjustment in that, time he's here. That's what we're about. Having, a guy in his 50s come in and complain about, you better fix me, I'm like, no, you know what I mean? Sorry. I mean, we can, but that's where I'm learning is like when we, for any of you out there that are walking through that, when you do things that you shouldn't do, that's where we're learning, like saying no, like referring that to somebody else. As much as any business owner, and we're a business just like you guys are out there, we want to be profitable. And so when someone walks in your door, it's pretty hard to say no to the $3,000 to $5,000 they would represent for you. And you're like, so the more I say no,
that's so important.
Yeah. And it always opens up that, we talk about that capacity a lot in our practice, that adaptability. So when I don't do that for myself and I close down, I'm doing work I don't want to be doing. It takes away. So then when a mom walks in who's stressed out and a kid walks in who's dealing with ADHD, or we got someone who's dealing with anxiety or depression, man, we that's the stuff we love all day long. Cause then they want what you have. But when someone's coming in saying, fix me, you're going to fix me, you're going to get me here. You're like, no, your body does the work. Your body's going to heal itself. I don't know what you're hanging on to, and I can't control that. So that's what we're learning here.
Important. That's so important because I listened to something this morning, and the analogy was that's when you've turned and you're swimming upstream instead of going with the flow of the stream and staying in your lane or staying in what is your specialty or what God has put you on this earth to do. You're swimming upstream against the flow, and that's when you find that resistance, and then things just start, the anxiety comes in and all of that. So I understand that.
Yeah,
for sure. So okay, well, how can people best find you? How can people reach out to you and find out if they're a fit for you and you're a fit for them?
Well, the easiest way, we'll take it old school first. Call us. If you're afraid to do that, I know it's a hard thing to do for some folks nowadays. The level of social anxiety that people feel making a phone call now is because they weren't forced as a child to call every automotive shop to look up prices on parts for their dad like I was. Little did I know that training would make it so that I can get on the phone with anybody anywhere and I'm fine, right? Yeah. Call us. We do a phone consult. We want to know your story. What's going on with your kiddo? What have you lost? What do you want to gain back? Those are two questions we always ask. What are you walking through as a mom, a dad? What is your child walking through? What have they lost? Have they lost attention, focus? Have they lost the ability to connect with you? Have you, for married couples, I ask this, how has this affected your marriage? And you always say, the husband says, oh, we're fine. And then you look at the wife and she's like,
not fine. Not fine. Yeah.
So, we affectionately refer our report of findings room and sometimes as the cry room, because this is where the truth comes out about where people really are at. So getting a hold of us, call us. Secondly, Facebook, that's a given. We're on there at least 3 days a week for our lives. If you want a little, you want to know what we're going to talk about, it's going to be the nervous system. I'm going to tell you about the nervous system over and over again in every different way possible. So that's a great way. Instagram we're working on. Sometimes I'm just old school. Just like come by, see us. Drop in. Literally, we're here in McKinney. We're right behind the Brahms on El Dorado.
It's true. They're right there.
See our office. For you to come in and see our office as a mom or a dad, dads, you don't care. I know you don't care, but moms, you do. So when you walk in our place and you see how comfortable it is, and it's not a doctor's office. That's not what we're here to be. We're a place for your world to change, for your nervous system to heal from the inside out. So get a hold of us, on our website too. Reform. Reformchiro.com. That's where you can get us there. You can call us at 972-810-3930. Facebook, private messenger. We'll find a way to get back to you. Somebody throw smoke signals up in the air. We'll find it.
Whatever. I love that.
Rain dance or something. I know you can help them with that.
Well, and what I'll do too is I'm going to put a link to your website in the description of this. And then when I post it in the various places that I can post it, I'll do that as well. So that they have that immediate link and can just click right there and move to the next step of talking to you. Well, Dr. Matt, thank you so much for being on with me today. I really value your time, and I value the intention and the purpose that you take in your business and in what you're doing with your life, with your family, and how you have ended up to this place where we were able to do an interview today. So thank you very much for making
Stephanie,
all of the
you are,
choices that you've made.
yes, thank you so much for the way you've poured into us, and we just love what you're about with your business. And
Oh, thank you.
we are just committed to being a part of other health professionals that are
Yeah.
really looking at, and this is, I know what you guys are about too. We want to go to the root of what's really going on. And so for us, we start with the nervous system. And if we can get that working, then nutrition works better, exercise works better, everything else
Right.
works better. So we always say, let us be that foundation for you and your family, and then everything else is that much more effective. So we are so grateful to you. Look forward to partnering with you with other things in the future. And you just let us know whatever we can do to help you guys be successful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for listening in today, and have a wonderful one, and get in touch with Dr. Matt. He can help you out.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.